I think at that point is when I kind of understood the value of community.
Yeah, when you say Scarborough has your heart, I hear that.
I've grown through the systems, I've seen people fall through the cracks, and I've seen the gaps.
And you have walked the walk in that city. So
you may not directly benefit today from the efforts that you put in, but down the line, all of those things connect. And at the end of the day, if you can't live for more than yourself, then what's the point of living?
Like, you need to learn to not lead with emotions, but with strategy and also with a heart.
They say build your own dreams or someone will hire you to build theirs. But what if I told you, no matter where you're starting from, you can build both wealth and community right here in the Greater Toronto area? Welcome to the Stella Talk Show, your #1 show in the GTA for real stories, real strategies, and real success, where we help new immigrants, first-time home buyers, and ambitious entrepreneurs turn their fresh start into a harbor move. I am your host, Stella Rao, a mother, entrepreneur, award-winning realtor, and your go-to guide for turning vision into action. I know what it feels like to start over, to grind every day with a dream in your heart and a budget in your hand. But I also know the power of strategy, support, and smart planning. And today's episode is a game changer. We're sitting down with Shawn Allen, a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, financial strategist, and a community builder, who's not only built a Growth 500 ranked business, but is now stepping into political leadership right here in Scarborough. If you want to learn how to build wealth in Canada from scratch, how to make smart real estate and financial decisions, how to turn your story into strategy and your pain into power, don't go anywhere. Stick with us until the end, because this episode isn't just advice, it's your blueprint. Let's dive in.
Hi, Shawn. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, how are you? Good morning now, after it's afternoon, it's 12:18, it's perfect. Yeah.
Good to have you. Shawn, you have built businesses. I have heard a lot about you. You have done a lot of things in the community. Tell me, where did this all start from?
To be honest, I was born in Scarborough, and I was raised in Scarborough, and I had an entrepreneurial spirit ever since I was 7 years old. That's when I first had my first real taste of being an entrepreneur. And I had a choice, right? I went to school for database administration. I got a job coming out of school with the skills that I learned. But my company at the time was moving. I lived in Scarborough practically all my life. That company was moving to Oakville on South Down Road, and I didn't want to make the move. I wanted to stay in Scarborough. So I looked at opportunities, and then I saw, real estate as an opportunity to get into that. A friend of mine brought me a booklet, and that booklet was to get into the mortgage industry. And I took it, and that's kind of my first real official taste of entrepreneurial, my entrepreneurial spirit. And one of my first clients was one of my coworkers, right? So I was looking at it, I was like, I put in a little bit of effort. I got a pretty decent return on that mortgage transaction. And I was like, wow, this is something I could do. So I really liked, the independence and the flexibility of doing that. So I think that was kind of like the point, I could say.
Oh, wow.
When I started.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about your growing up in Scarborough. Like, your family, were they new to Scarborough at that time? Or?
Yeah, so I was born at Centenary Hospital, which is part of Scarborough Health Network. And I lived all over Scarborough, from Agent Court to, now I'm in Scarborough Rouge Park. And, I went to school there, elementary school, high school, I worked there, and I still reside there. So, my family came from Guyana, and my mother came here in 1967, and my father came shortly after. And, everything was built right there, right? And I branched out, and it gave me an opportunity to, do a lot in the community. So I actually moved out of Scarborough in 2008, moved back in 2016. And I think that's when I moved back is when I started to really hone in on, being from Scarborough, because there was a time where, you say you're from Scarborough, it was like a bad thing, right? And even now, Scarborough's getting a bad rap where people still, the city in itself is, not really giving Scarborough its fair share when it comes to taxes and services, and even Scarborough doesn't have a hotel, even up to this day, right? So, just being able to represent the community that I'm, born and raised in is very impactful.
Yeah, when you say Scarborough has your heart, I hear that with your explanation there. That's amazing.
For sure.
Most definitely. So tell me about your part in the community in Scarborough. What was the pivoting moment from you to shift from entrepreneurship in your business into community leadership? Yeah,
so I think when I moved back in 2016, it gave me a different lens to focus on. I joined the Scarborough Business Association, and I think at that point is when I kind of understood the value of community. So I was on the board, I think from 2017, I think I joined the Scarborough Business Association in December, and I was a director, and then I became the president for 18 months from 2023 when the previous president ran in the Scarborough-Gilwood area, and she won, and then I took over the presidency. I was vice president at that time. And during that 6.5-year tenure, I was able to have dialogue and relationships with other institutions such as the zoo, the university, the hospital, different food banks and different community organizations, and it gave me a real sense of community. So I actually took time out of my businesses to work on that full time as a volunteer, and it really gave me an opportunity to connect with people in the community. And now I'm running, to be city council in that area. So it all comes back full circle.
Yeah, that's amazing. How you pivoted there. So in that journey, what are some highlights that you have experienced that you would like to share with us?
It's a very unique place. 600,000 people live there from all different walks of life, all different places. You could actually tour the whole world, culturally, food-wise, religion. You could tour with 630,000 people. Scarborough is actually, if it was a city on its own, it would be the 10th largest city in Canada. And, as a fact check, it's actually larger than Atlanta, right? So when you put that into perspective, you have the ability to really submerge yourself into culture in Scarborough, and I think that that's probably the most impactful piece of living in this particular part of the city. And it has its challenges. It has a lot of challenges, but I think just being there and understanding, being born there and understanding the cultural dynamic and the makeup of the community, it gives me a very good perspective on how to make the community better, because I've grown through the systems. I've seen people fall through the cracks, and I've seen the gaps. And I think it's an opportunity for me to come in and really support those in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have walked the walk in that city, so you know what you need to do to achieve your mission. That's amazing. That's amazing. Shawn, you have created community programs like the Business and Housing Summit and everything, and also the Senior Fair, right? Tell me a little bit about your goals there and what's your part?
Yeah, so there was... we started with the Toronto Business Summit, which the next one is happening September 10th to 12th at the University of Toronto. But that originally started as a pilot that we did at Humber up in Etobicoke. And we moved it to Scarborough because the Humber project was more of just a small gathering of about 100 people, 120 people. And that was just about getting businesses back online coming out of COVID. There was a lot of programs that were available to people, but they just didn't know where to get the information or how to access the information or who to talk to for clarification. So we said, okay, let's put this summit together and provide a resource to businesses. we had a good response at 100, 120 people, but that wasn't where we wanted to be. So we brought it to the University of Toronto. They're a great partner in providing us the space to host the event. And then we had 2,200 people when we hosted it in September, 3 years ago.
Amazing.
Right? So we did the first one in June, second one in September, 2,200 people. So now we're like, okay, this is where we want to go. And we had a lot of collaborations with the City of Toronto, BDC, EDC, Uber, Google, and the list goes on. There's a lot of great collaborations, and it provided a framework for, you know, business to business or business, government to business, an ecosystem where, you know, there's a framework for information to be disseminated to the local businesses to help them thrive. That was outside of the downtown core. Right, so we wanted to make sure that, you know, we hosted that in Scarborough to support Scarborough. One of the takeaways that we've seen in our I guess, what would I call it, in our intake of data, in our data, was that not only were we getting people from Scarborough, but we're getting people from Brampton, we're getting people from Mississauga, we're getting people from Markham, we're getting a lot of people from Durham, and they were coming in, and because it was Toronto focused, but in Scarborough, the programs that people were talking about didn't relate, at least from the city perspective, didn't relate to those other communities, so they were kind of left out of the picture of the whole development. So now this year, what we're doing is we're including elements from all the other regions, so that when people come to it, they're going to get other elements that could support.
Oh, that's amazing!
Right, so we're trying to make it a little bit bigger, more impactful. It's a regional reach as opposed to just a local reach. So that's one of the things that we're putting forward.
That's amazing.
So as we're doing that business summit, then we came up with the concept of doing a housing summit. So the housing summit was more geared to supporting the affordable housing conversation because, you know, as a realtor, you're a realtor, I'm a realtor as well. And then on the mortgage side, what I was noticing was that housing was getting, you know, more distant for people, and people were having a hard time maintaining or holding on to their property. Rising interest rates, rising taxes, cost of, you know, living is going up. People are refinancing more. Reverse mortgages, for example, are up quite a bit. And, you know, specifically for the reverse mortgages, that's our population that is primarily at the end of their, you know, working years. You know, their income is relatively fixed, and there's not much movement or the ability to earn extra cash. So we've seen that, and then we start to have conversations, and we say, okay, how do we allow for people to gain more out of their property? We did the housing summit, and at the time we had a lot of participation from all three levels of government. And, you know, we talked about the ADU strategy, which is the garden suite traditional dwelling units, which we've been advocating to get on the platform for quite a long time for people to be able to do that. There was a push for that, but then, you know, the city was like, yes, you can add them, but the banks weren't financing them, so there was a gap. So we said, hey, we need to talk about this. Then when we opened up that door, then we talked about modular construction, right? Then we said, okay, well, this is a way that we can, you know, build homes faster, but then there was a gap with the different labor unions saying, well, if you're gonna build modular, then we're missing out on these jobs because now you have unskilled people or doing work for construction, now we're missing out. So it's just a whole lot of, you know, misaligned theories and thought processes that are building, you know, gaps or making red tape for the development of property. So then the government started to pick up steam on the conversation. So now we were slightly ahead of the media on, you know, the conversation about housing, but then it's just started to build momentum. So now everyone's talking about it now. CMHC is involved in this now, but there's still gaps that we need to address. So that summit, both the business summit and the housing summit, we subsequently had it another year. So we last year was our second year having it. And then this year is our third year. And now it's like, everyone's talking about housing. Everyone's talking about support for businesses. Now, we're talking about, tariffs, right? And we were talking about tariffs 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about diversifying. So I created an organization called the Canadian Afro-Caricom Business Trade Association to do bilateral trade with Canada, Africa, and the Caribbean, because I felt that, it's one thing to just try to put all your resources in trading with America, but then now there's all these other countries that we could do business with. So I had the foresight and vision to kind of lead to that. And that's kind of the thought process. And
that's amazing. And making that connection.
Yeah. And then even talking with the seniors, that whole conversation came out of my, looking at the data and seeing that the reverse mortgages were increasing in popularity. And, I have a great relationship with the Minister of Seniors, and I talked to his assistant, and she said, yeah, we're thinking about having a seniors event. September is Seniors Month. I said, great, let's put something together. So they had an idea, I had an idea. We put it together with the Chinese Cultural Center. We had over 1,000 seniors come out to that event. So, we're making big impact.
That is big impact, most definitely. So, it's amazing, while listening to you, I'm thinking, oh my God, what an impact you're making in the community. And then you're not doing it together, you're doing it with like-minded people who are partnering with you. And especially coming from entrepreneurship into community leadership right now, why do you think not only wealth building but giving back to the community is also a must?
Yeah, it's very important because, you have a strong community, you have a strong system that's going to grow and help the community stay functional and secure. If you don't have that, then you're going to have issues like, increased crime, increased poverty, drug addiction, mental health addiction, all of those things spiral out of a community that's not fully functioning. So I think it's very important to make sure that we have leadership in place that could talk to and address these issues that make every community great. And I think, just with my relationships that I've had with various community stakeholders and others that are outside the community but could also come in and benefit and share in the success of the community, I think it puts me in a well-positioned place to really go and put my foot forward to run and, compete for a position that's very vital in making sure that the community is thriving. And I think that's why I wanted to put my name in the hat to run for city council. But win or lose, I'm still working on, activities that if I don't win the city seat, I'm still doing things in the community regardless. But if I win the city seat, it's going to enhance my ability to, support the community and the things that I could do.
That's the mission at heart, right? Most definitely. So let's change gears a little bit. We'll talk about financials and some advice focused. So you've been in the community for so long and you have seen the people. I know Scarborough is a very rich community with immigrants. So tell me a little bit about your part in that side of the community.
My parents are immigrants. I was born here in Canada, but, coming from immigrant parents, I understand that, there's some gaps in language that create barriers, especially in healthcare too, right? For seniors especially, because now, medical misdiagnosis is the number 3 killer in the world. But now imagine if you have people from different ethnic backgrounds coming into your community and then they're unable to communicate and you send them into a hospital setting. It could create issues, right?
That's true.
Which could then spiral out of control, creates mental health issues, and could potentially increase to other things. So just being able to relate and have dialogue with different communities, I think it's very, very valuable in the sense that, like I said, Scarborough is a place where you have multiple ethnic groups, and in my area, Scarborough Rouge Park, we have a thriving Tamil, Bangladesh, Guyanese, Trinidad, Jamaican. There's all these different people that call that place home and practice their religion in a free and safe environment. We don't have any issues that that are prevalent to say that you're unable to live safely. It's for the most part a very safe community. I'm on the police association board for 43 Division, and religious crime is not really at the top of the list. You have car theft and like petty crime and stuff like that, but you don't really have religious crimes or things like that. So I think for the most part the community is safe, but we have to work to make the community safer for all to live and practice their religion safely and walk freely in the streets. And that's some of the things that I want to focus on. Yeah,
most definitely. That's a great area to focus on when you're trying to build that community together. Most definitely. And many new immigrants that come to Canada with dreams but they face roadblocks, as you mentioned, due to language barrier and things like that. What financial or mindset shifts that they need to make to thrive in this economy today in Canada?
I think the main thing that, not only in Scarborough, but in general, is understanding the Canadian landscape for taxation and realizing what supports are there. There's a lot of community organizations that exist, and I think it's important that we get their messaging out to the masses because, it's very important to adjust. I was talking to someone the other day, and when I was out door knocking, and he was a guy from Mexico, and he said, regardless of the high taxes, Canada is still the best country to live in. I said, why you say that? He's like, I'm from Mexico, and people are really, really, going through it down there, even though a lot of people are trying to say, hey, invest in Mexico and this and that. It's like, I came from there, I know what it is, where true poverty lies. Not to say that true poverty doesn't exist here, but our standard of living is much higher than that of other places. Even though people complain, Canada is still a great place to live. And I think it's very important that we, as a community, support each other and uplift each other, because you want to make sure that the community is healthy, and a healthy community is a community that supports each other. And I think that's the number one thing that we have to get the message across through various social programs that are out there. I think it's very important to bring awareness and provide people access to those programs. So it's all about access and resources that are available.
Exactly, and asking the right questions at the right time. From the right people, right?
Exactly.
So that is very, very important. So especially people who are coming here with a big dream, and we don't want them to face roadblocks. What we want them to face is people encouraging them to be what they want to be in their life, right? What I like to tell people is, like, in Canada, if you have a will, there's definitely a way. You just have to find it, be out there, ask the right question, meet the right people, and be in that circle of influence to get you there.
100%.
Most definitely. So you have a real estate background as well. You've been a realtor for many years, and you have built like many businesses that has been very successful. So tell me a little bit about, during the start of that career, what are the roadblocks that you faced, and how did you overcome? What were your strategies at that time and mindset?
I don't think I really had roadblocks that prevented me from excelling. I feel that the experiences that I had taught me to be better. One of the things that I went through, which many people may not like or may be fearful of, I had several audits, because I started my mortgage brokerage first, then I started my real estate brokerage, and then I started my private lending firm. Within 18 months, all three of them were audited, right? So for me, I looked at it as, hey, my company is growing. I was honored to be audited, because now I look at it like, wow, I'm doing things correctly because I had someone come in to say, hey, this is the way you do things. And I think that was kind of like the dividing point to say, hey, I'm on the right track, right? But some people, they may look at that as, wow, I'm being audited. What's the problem? Why me? And, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you have to look at things a little bit differently in order to put yourself in a position to win. The most important piece that I find is that, when you're operating a business, you always have to look at things from a different perspective and a different vantage point, other than that you think that you're doing the best thing, you're the best realtor, you're the best business, whatever. You have to remove yourself from the equation and look at the business from the outside. And I think that's kind of the point at which I realized that we're on the right path. But it's a lot of work to run a business, and I, encourage everyone to be entrepreneurial in some fashion, but not everyone is built that way. Some people like to take orders, some people like to give orders, some people like to listen, some people like to speak. Running a business is a little bit of all of that, right? Because you have to listen to your consumers, you have to listen to your staff, but you have to be able to make informed decisions and execute on those decisions. Being an entrepreneur, some people think I'm going to work for myself and it's going to be so easy, but you actually work harder when you're an entrepreneur, and even for yourself. As a realtor, you may think, oh yeah, I used to work at a job and now I'm working for myself, it's gonna be easier. It's actually putting in more time and more effort, but your rewards are much different, right? You may not directly benefit today from the efforts that you put in, but down the line, all of those things connect, right? And then you have to be able to decipher how these items connect, and then make sure you do the moves that make them profitable for you. And that's the part that I like about being an entrepreneur. It allows you the flexibility to be individual, but it gives you the framework to be unique. Right, and I think that's the best way to put it.
That's true. That's amazing. I love the words that you used there.
Yeah.
And also, like, I would like to add to what you said, like, when it comes to entrepreneurship, like, you need to learn to not lead with emotions, but with strategy, and also with a heart.
100%.
At the same time. And that's how that you can thrive and move forward.
Yeah, 100%.
Most definitely. I want to talk about the book that you authored. I know it's a bestseller. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that book, I'm actually a co-author. It's called The Ripple Effect by David Tabucchi, who's a former cabinet minister, and Mark Healy, also two great people that I look up to dearly, especially on the political side. And there's 18 authors in that book, some from the political space, Mitzi Hunter as well, former associate minister of finance for the Liberal Party, and minister of, I think she was in the health department as well, or education, I can't remember which one. But there's other great people in that book. I haven't met everyone. I met a lot of them, but I haven't met all of them. But that book is just about networking, right? So David Tabucchi, who I have the most respect for, he included me as part of that publication. And that book is about networking and my vantage point on how I view networking, which I think is very, very important. I talk a little bit about, memberships and being part of networks and how that plays with respects to building out your brand and how you can, assist people, but also be assisted and networking with purpose, as opposed to going out and filling out your Rolodex. You want to meet people with intention and follow up with those people. And that's what that book is about. And right now it's a bestseller. I think we're in 5 countries and 4 languages.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. A lot of people have the book. They brought the book to many places where they have book launches, and I'm planning to do a book signing at the Business Summit as well in September.
Oh, nice.
But it's a great opportunity to engage with people. As an author of a book, it put me into a realm that I never once thought I could be in, and that's through the engagement of networking with people. And I think it provides an opportunity. I think people should write things down and try to write a book too, because it lays a framework for where you are today, and it provides a blueprint for where you want to go. So I think it was a very good endeavor.
Definitely. And reading that can light a fire in someone who wants to take that path as well. So that's definitely important. And that's amazing that you have took the time out of everything that you do to put pen to paper, and have that precious book out there for anybody who wants to grab. So we're going to leave the details in our comments as well, so you can definitely check it out. I want to also talk a little bit about first-time home buyers in today's economy in the GTA, like Scarborough or the GTA area. We know a lot is happening right now with trades, with interest rates, with with everything going on. What is your advice to anybody who's thinking about buying their first home in the GTA in 2025?
To be honest with you, my business was never really built around people buying a home. My business was built on people that own a home that were looking to get equity. Because in any market, up, down, left, right, there's more homeowners than home buyers. I think right now there's 6 million homeowners, and I think last year we had just 500,000 purchasers across the country. So, in that respect, first-time home buyers, wasn't really my bread and butter. However, one thing I could suggest right now, there's no better time to buy than today, whether it's this market or last year's market or 3 years ago's market. It's always a good time to buy when it's good for you to buy. I personally, think that if you're going to buy, you should buy something that you can, have multiple streams of income. The city of Toronto recently passed a bylaw that allows for, people to have 6 units on their property. As families grow, It's going to be more, and as the population of Canada grows as well, and Toronto specifically, or the GTA or GTHA, whichever you please, it's going to be more and more challenging for people to get into real estate. So I think if you buy something that you have the ability to rent out a portion, or have an opportunity to have a generational home where your whole family could live in the house and grow together, I think that's the way to go right now. I think the days of a single family detached home are waning down because of the functionality of those types of homes. People are trying to age in place. And I think what needs to happen is there needs to be more stock of those types of properties. Where I have 5 kids, and my kids live in the home, and I don't see them in this market going out to purchase, because there's so much uncertainty with tariffs and job stability, and even cost of living. All of that stuff is on the rise. So it makes more sense for people to get into a property that a whole family could live and thrive together, maybe in individual quarters, but all in the same property under one roof. And I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big family person, and I think that's the type of structure that I think would be beneficial. But sometimes people want to move out on their own, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the cost of living is so burdensome on just the Canadian pocketbook, with taxes and affordability, rising food costs, rising energy costs. I'm not going to come out and say, yes, you should go out as a first-time home buyer and leave the nest. If you have to, great. There's a lot of options. But just put yourself in a position that you have the ability to earn a little bit of extra income from the property, whether it's renting out a basement or renting out a room, or having the flexibility to have those types of options available to you. I think that's something that would be worth giving as a piece of advice.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Taking the time to evaluate your profile and how to improve that to get into what you can, the sooner, and building on that is the mindset that you need to thrive on, most definitely. Shawn, you have mentored so many people in your journey, and what's your number one rule when it comes to building financial resilience in today's economy?
Diversification. You got to diversify, and I've gained success, and I've had failures too, right? I've been in a place where I've diversified so much that I was down to my last $2,000, and I had a house in Markham, and I had a choice, and that choice was invest in myself or pay my mortgage payment. So there's no shame in investing and taking a loss here and there, but you have to have resilience to be able to come back. And I think that's the most important thing. You can't have fear to invest, especially if you're investing in yourself. Just like you invested in yourself, right? You have to be able to know within yourself your abilities and how to gain, I guess, notoriety and build yourself as a brand. Investment is risky, so you have to be calculated and gain a lot of support from people that have done it before, gain some mentorship. But don't be afraid to invest in yourself, I think, is the most important thing. And if you understand how to, put your best foot forward and really trust and believe in your abilities, I think you'll be fine in any investment that you do.
Yeah, with financial literacy, most definitely. Yeah, that's important. Because in today's economy, when we are talking about money or wealth building, it's about long term. It's not like in the olden days, it's about, you're going to work and, making sure we have enough for the family. But right now, the mindset is long term. It's about building legacy. So having the financial literacy from the beginning, that'll give you a lot of time to get to where you want to get.
Yeah. 100%.
Most definitely. So just gearing back into your vision in the political aspects of things, do you think with your experience in the entrepreneurial world, does that influence in your decisions when it comes to political?
In what sense? What do you mean?
Like in community building, or the strategies that you have amplified in the entrepreneurial world?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, if you asked me 6 months ago if I'd be running for city council, I'd have probably said no. But the only reason why I'm at this position now is because I looked at the field, and the person that was there before me ran in Ajax and went under the federal government. So the position became available. So I feel that me putting my name in the ring provided me an opportunity to hit the ground running because I already had the relationship. So most definitely it's going to tie into the work that I've already been doing. For example, I have an ambition to host, FIFA in Scarborough, right? Scarborough doesn't have any hotels. I'm on the Economic Development Committee for the Scarborough Community Renewal Organization. And, one of the things that we talk about is lack of hotels, lack of resources. But I think, there's an application that's open right now to allow for different wards in Scarborough, one ward per grant per ward to do an activation for FIFA. When I talk about activation, it could be a watch party, it could be, some sports night or whatever. So I looked at this, and I looked at the field of people that are running for city council, and I was like, okay, well, I don't think any of these people are going to think like that, right? So this is something that I'm saying, okay, well, look, Scarborough needs economic development. Yeah. Scarborough needs jobs. Youth unemployment is high. Why don't we leverage the funding that the city has in place and then create activations across Scarborough Rouge Park in particular, because each ward gets their own set of funding. And then we could provide economic activity for the region, and people could benefit because it is an ethnically diverse community. There's all different, backgrounds and cultural reference. We should be able to watch the game with our kids in a peaceful place. We should be able to watch the games outside, and we should be able to watch the games with community. So I said, okay, well, why don't we reach out to the zoo? Why don't we reach out to the Pan Am Center? Why don't we reach out to different communities within the ward and start doing some activations or watch parties? So that's something we're putting together right now. The application deadline is September the 17th. So we're actively putting that together, talking to the community stakeholders so that we could do that type of activation. So that's the forward thinking. So if someone didn't have a business mindset, they may not be thinking like that, right? So this is what I say when I'm hitting the ground running. I'm actually hitting the ground running because I have the mindset to put us into that place. And this is not happening until next year, but you got to start planning today.
Planning today, most definitely. And I think the cornerstone for that planning comes from networking and being present in that community and in that mindset to evolve from there.
Correct.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Most definitely. And also just to talk about your family life, Shawn. I know that you're a father, a family man. Tell me a little bit about your role there. You mentioned your kids.
Yes, I got 5 kids, 4 girls, 1 boy. My oldest is 30 and my youngest is 16 going on 17.
Your oldest is 30?
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay.
Right? So it's great. Like, it's the motivation that you need to make sure that, when you have a hard day, and it's not hard, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to run a business. Some days are great, some days are not. Some days are profitable, some days you're losing, thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Yes. So at the end of the day, when you have your kids in your corner and you have your family structure in your corner, it makes it that much more meaningful because you're doing it for somebody, right? Yes. You're doing it for a purpose, right? So, I think it's the driving force that keeps me going and keeps me, getting up, because you want to be able to provide for your family, and I think that's the most important piece.
Yeah, now being consistently. Being the best role model that you can be for them. Most definitely. That's very wonderful. And what legacy do you think that you would love to leave for your family and for anybody who's looking up to you in the community?
There's quite a few. Like, even right now, I have a star on the Scarborough Walk of Fame. So that's a nice legacy piece, but there's more to be done. And I think, when it's all said and done and, my time has come, I want people to know me as, someone that really gave back and really tried to support. And I think that's the most important thing, because, you have to live for more than yourself. Right, and at the end of the day, if you can't live for more than yourself, then what's the point of living? Because none of this could come with you, right? So as long as you're giving back wholeheartedly and providing full service to people, I think that's what people want. And I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself and for your family and for your communities, to give back and to give back wholeheartedly. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a very good legacy to have. Yeah, that's actually, gives us a very good lens of, what you're doing, your strategy and your goals in the community, and also in your journey in your life. That's amazing. I'm going to run into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions, the shortest but very straight answers. The first one, biggest lesson Scarborough taught you?
Community, for sure. The biggest lesson is love your neighbor and really provide, service for people and be there to help people, because, helping your neighbors is critical, and really getting an understanding of who you are and, how you build your network and your community. So I think helping your neighbor and building that is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one, one thing every immigrant should do in their first 90 days in the GTA.
Come to Scarborough and eat some food. That's
I
the
love
best
the
thing.
food.
Scarborough's the best for food, the best for food. There's so much variety, I think, and I'm always going to promote Scarborough. That's my place. I love Toronto.
I love the food. No, and I don't argue with that. They have the amazing food, especially for my community too. I think big part of my community lives in Sri Lankans live in Scarborough as well.
In Scarborough Rouge Park, my area.
Yeah, and I love the food there.
The food is the best.
Yes, most definitely. A quote that fools you every day.
A quote that follows me? I don't know. Let's come back to that one. I'll come back to that one.
You're going to come back to that one. Okay.
Let me think about that one. That's an important one.
Yeah. If you got to choose between city council or boardroom, where do you think your heart is at?
That's a good one too. But I've been in boardrooms quite a bit, and I've been in boardrooms that they didn't really have that much diversity, right? There's a lot of people pushing to have more diversity in boardrooms, but I think there needs to be diversity in government as well, right? And I think it's either you're at the table or you're on the table, and I think that might be the quote right there. It's either you're at the table or you're on the table.
The answer for the previous question.
Yeah, that's for the previous one. So, but it's either you're at the table or you're on the table. So I think being at the table, provides an opportunity to represent 105,000 people as a city council for Scarborough Rouge Park. But being in government, because I've never been there before, this is my first time running, I think it will provide a different lens for, engagement and opportunity, because now you're speaking for a community as opposed for a company or just a small group of people that you're representing at the boardroom table. Some countries aren't even 105,000, you see what I'm saying? So when you look at it like that, it gives you a whole different perspective as to what impact this role has. And I think once you start layering back, the levels of, responsibility, then you realize how important the position is, right?
Yes.
And I think that is why I really am looking forward to, a successful campaign and really putting myself in a position to win for the community. And that's why I put my name in.
Yeah, no, I see that. With this conversation, I completely see that. Yeah, and I wish you all the best with that. My last question to you, though.
Sure.
What would you title your next book if you are authoring one?
That's a tough one. To be honest, I never even thought about being a part of the first book. You know what I mean? So I would have to think. Maybe open for business.
Open for business.
Open for business. And I think the reason why that is because coming from a business mindset, as the past president of the Scarborough Business Association and, the impacts of, the global economic crisis that we're in and how it ties locally to, the kitchen table conversations and how that impacts, the cost of living and, the decisions to, either go out with the family for dinner tonight or stay home and make, a home cooked meal or, pay for Netflix or, pay for YouTube streaming. I think, Open for Business provides a lot of opportunity for economic development, and it ties directly to your kitchen table conversations. And I think, just, from my business mindset, and I'm in no way a business guru. I've won and failed, like I said. But at the same time, you have to be open to dialogue. And I think, coming in from that mindset gave me an opportunity to be who I am today. And I think that would probably be the name of a book that I open for business, right? Because you have to be open to communicate, you have to be open to dialogue, you have to be open to conversation, you have to be open to take some wins and take some losses too. So Open for Business might be.
Most definitely. And your favorite quote was, you're even either at the table or
you're on the table.
And if you don't belong there, just go and create your own table. So for that, of course, you need to be open for business. You need to have that open mindset, networking, talking to people, and creating the opportunity that you truly deserve.
Correct.
Most of Shawn, it's been a wonderful pleasure having you in the talk show. Sharing your mission with us today has inspired most of our audience and also the Scarborough region residents. So we look forward for a successful outcome for you this year.
Thank you. It's so good talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
If this episode sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag a friend, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe, because the journey to wealth, impact, and personal freedom starts with conversations like this. This is Stella Ram, your host, a mother, entrepreneur, and your trusted GTA realtor, reminding you the grind is real, but so is the glow up. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and never stop believing in what's possible for you. You're watching the Stella Talk Show. We don't just talk, we transform.
Thank you for spending your time with us on the Stellar Talk Show. We hope you found value in today's episode and gained insights to help elevate your lifestyle. If you enjoyed the discussion, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who could benefit. It means the world to us. Until our next episode, stay inspired, and I'll see you soon on our next Stellar Talk Show.